Girl, you sure is ugly. Let's talk
Yeah.
about the ugly truth of PCOS. How y'all doing? Hey, y'all. Welcome back to the
Hey.
virtual couch. Amanda, okay, our future OBGYN, good to see you. This is her rotation. She got time to sit down and educate y'all, okay? Thank you, Amanda,
Yes.
for hopping back on the couch. We are happy to see you back here.
Thank
And
you for
Dr.
having me
Trista,
again.
hi.
Yes.
Thank you, Amanda. And Dr. Trista, how you looking all cozy and warm, like what we need over here on the West Coast? It used to be just the East Coast
Listen.
thing. But anyway, we're gonna
Uh-huh.
hop into this topic because I want to talk about it. So this is what happened. A couple years ago, a very famous actress who we all love and we all adore, and congratulations to her with her newborn son. Hint, hint. We're happy to see her enjoying motherhood and being real about her motherhood. She just posted something that was very real.
Mm-hmm.
But 2 years ago, we're gonna rewind what happened 2 years ago. She came out and wiped off all of her makeup. You know, celebrities be doing some fabulous makeup, right? So she took all her makeup off. And I think that kind of stunned people to realize that her skin was not what people anticipated. That underneath the makeup, she suffered from acne and she suffers from severe acne. So she was very brave because, you know, we are particular about our looks. She was very brave to come out and share what her skin actually looks like. I would love to be able to have her on the couch and share with us why she did that. What was the motivation? But nonetheless, as a result of doing that, y'all know she got some haters. Like haters came out and talked about and called her ugly. Like, could you imagine? Okay, first of all, when you hear the word ugly, what does that do to you? How do y'all feel about if someone were to call you ugly? What's the response that you have to that word?
I feel like it's one of the biggest insults ever because it's not, I mean, like there's so many words in the world that you could use, but ugly out of all things is just like a different level, right? It hurts in so many different ways. Like, what do you mean I'm ugly? What about me is ugly? Are you talking physical? Are you talking emotional, mentally? Like what? Like there's so many aspects to the word ugly. It's not just a word that you can just throw around, right?
I like
I,
that.
I say it's a hurtful word, but me personally, somebody call me anything, I'll just laugh because you must be blind.
Listen,
I'm
she was like, "Don't
sorry.
come for me." I know,
You
I
must be blind.
know. Dr. Trista's
So
like, I know who I am, and I know it's called self-worth over here. But
you must be blind. But it is hurtful. And
uh-huh.
you think about if there's someone that's really not, I guess, secure in themselves, that can be very devastating for them
Right.
because you have now judged them and found them wanting to some extent, right? Because the word is a lack of something, so to speak. It's a lack of attractiveness, whether it is like Amanda said, whether it is that emotional or personality even, right?
Mhm.
Or in the case of what they're trying to say with her would be physical. So you basically have been judged and have been found wanting.
No, I like the point that you both made. And I think when I hear the word ugly, I hear undesirable.
Mm.
And I think that's part of why and I have had this similar situation. I will share with you guys my personal experience when I was growing up in my adolescent these years. I struggled with hirsutism. And that was the onset of my hirsutism was kind of like in high school years. And I remember walking down the street, not even understanding what's like my mom didn't understand, my family members didn't understand, like we just didn't have the education to know what it meant, and what it implied, or that it was, we just thought, it runs in the family. you know, folks were like, oh, I guess you hit that age, it runs in the family. So no one really understood or took the time to really explain to us or even evaluate us for it. And so we just had no idea what it was. And so there was an acceptance in the family, but not an acceptance publicly. And so I remember one day I was walking down the street and these young guys were coming up, and because this is the guy now, his little body, and they were commenting as they do in the hood. Like, y'all know, I grew up in the hood. They were commenting, and then as they got closer, one of them commented about my hirsutism, and that hurt me so deeply, right? And so when this happened to this particular actress, I actually can relate to it very personally, because I had a similar experience. And it is very hurtful, especially when I think you're a young adult, when you're still kind of finding yourself and understanding who you are and understanding your self-worth. Thankfully, she's already there, so she could handle it. But if you're in your adolescent years, and this is why bullying is such, I consider it to be an epidemic, maybe even a pandemic, because it's becoming so internationally common, but especially an epidemic in the US, the bullying factor, which is basically a whole bunch of unhealed people hurting other unhealed people, right? Or hurting other people, is a huge issue and a huge factor as to why we're seeing such high rates of suicide amongst adolescents, is for comments like this. And I will definitely say, I do have a number of my young teenagers who do have the same condition. So she has polycystic ovarian syndrome. And it is a syndrome, which means it has multiple symptoms and multiple signs. And even though it says that it's polycystic, not everyone who have the syndrome necessarily have polycystic ovaries. And even the word cystic ovaries is sort of deceiving, because it's not necessarily cysts, it's just large follicles. But another time we'll talk about PCOS. But PCOS comes with a lot of things. It's not just acne. Some girls may have hirsutism. Like, I had the experience of hirsutism for other reasons. But hirsutism is one of those things that is publicly considered to be unfavorably. It's not atypical for what's considered to be standard beauty. Did I phrase that correctly?
Okay.
Correct.
Mhm.
And similarly with acne, for men and women with acne, men also get it too when they have severe acne. There's some celebrity men who wear lots of makeup because of their acne, and because they want to be desirable, right? And so I think for a multitude of reasons, and we know that depression is higher with PCOS, and maybe as a result of the body shaming. PCOS patients also tend to be higher in weight. So it's whether you're higher in weight, hirsutism, acne, a combination of two, a combination of three. It's a lot when you're growing up and you're adolescent to really deal with those complexities. Some adults are still challenged with dealing with the standard beauty in America and meeting those standards and being measured up to those standards. So to imagine an adolescent with a fragile self-worth or self-esteem dealing with these similar issues. So I thought that, I understood what she experienced. I understood how hurtful that could be. But why are we so hard on, especially women, when it comes to beauty for real conditions?
I'm not quite sure. I do feel like social media and entertainment has like a big role in that, of course, as we know today. So I do think that standard is so high, but also so unrealistic. It's not what I would say 99% of the rest of the world looks like. And I think because we're on our phones all day and we're on social media and we're watching TV and movies, like, I think we are so desensitized that we see this and we think, okay, this is what beauty is, right? But I think we forget to look around and see what beauty is like around us.
You are so right, because let me tell you, Amanda, when I am on the social and the media and I see these amazing, like the makeup artists, I watch them just in awe, because I'm like, how do you go from that to that? Like, just in absolute awe of what people do. And y'all will see me put on a lip, because I want my lip to look all cracked and busted for y'all. but I don't have time to do anything more than that, right?
No.
But there are people who spend before they step outside of their house or before they go on social media to do whatever real life they want to do, REEL life that they want to do, that they're putting on a full face. Like, and there are people who do it out of enjoyment because they enjoy the art of it. But I think a lot of people are doing it out of pressure, trying to meet these just unrealistic standards. Like, we know you didn't roll out of bed like that.
Right.
How do we keep up with these standards? Like, how do we make sure that our young girls in this world that's already created, that's, not really going back? I don't think. Because now we're going meta. So now you can truly create what you want to look like, right?
I think there has to be more time spent away from the socials. And that's where it comes down to, we've gotten into this kind of epidemic as a nation, as a world, where we spend our time, we engage and we interact like that. There's not a lot of that one-on-one FaceTime, true face-to-face time. And I think there has to be a pulling away from that, because it's definitely giving too many options, or well, it's not even giving too many options, but there is marketing involved in grabbing our attention. We know this, it's not a question.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always going to be putting things in our eyes that we see or we deem as being pleasurable or enough to draw our attention and to keep us there. So we need to start exposing our children at younger ages to like more of a variety of things, introducing to not just what's on television, what's in Hollywood, but what's in the world around them. I feel like exposure is probably one of the best ways to get that to happen. And for each person it may be different, but exposing the kids to a fully different world, knowing that they'll still make their choice, but giving them the options to be able to see, oh, well, that is also nice. This is also nice. And I think a lot of it is also going to be based on how we, as the adults around them, portray ourselves. So um, I am not very much into long wigs or weaves or the long straight silky hair. Never been my thing. I'm just not into it. There are members of my family, and I'll just leave it very blank, who are very much into it. And they're very much into makeup. And they do a phenomenal job of putting everything together. They are very much on trend and on point with the way that they do their hair and the wigs and everything else. And younger members of the family are like idolizing it. Like, oh my goodness, they look so pretty. I personally can't stand it. And I'm just like, wow, okay, so this is what she's going to want to look like as well. And it's all just going with the trend and the look but that's kind of what she's exposed to. So what else is she going to look at as being beautiful?
Right, right, right. And I think that's such a great point, because the modeling really makes a difference, right? Kids literally model what they see. Um, and so, it's a combination of what they're seeing on social media, and then if it's being modeled at home, then there's no other convincing factor than what's happening in your household. I think we have an opportunity to change the opinion and the perspective of young kids if we were to um, sort of modeled a different perspective in a household. So it's hard to change that. And I wish we would trend one day natural beauty. But even when there's a natural beauty trend, it's always the person that stereotypically just happens to have the most perfect skin, the most perfect feature, like the standard beauty features, just not wearing
Mm-hmm.
makeup. I'm like, no, we mean like natural beauty, like the people who have the moles, like, the freckles, which I love freckles personally.
Me
I
too.
love freckles. I will take a freckle and a dimple anytime. And people love dimples, but dimples is a deformity, right? It's not normal
Right.
to have a dimple. But I personally, I love a dimple. I'm like, Jesus, you couldn't have given me an extra dimple. But it's interesting what we choose to identify as being standard of beauty. But the other thing that struck me with this particular incident is the fact of how ignorant the general public is, right? So the general public, like, I wonder, like, what do people think? That I know that a lot of people growing up used to say that your acne was because of what you ate. Stop eating them. Junk food is giving you that
Not
acne.
skin
And
properly.
and granted, food does affect our health, and it does create unhealthy food, does create or promote inflammation in the body. So if you have an underlying condition, an unhealthy food that is pro-inflammatory can make things worse. There is some truth to that. But it's not the cause of it. Just like it's a little bit deceiving that we call it polycystic ovarian syndrome. So people think, oh, having the polycystic ovary is what's causing my issues. But no, that's the sign of it. That's a sign of the condition, not the underlying cause. It's a very complex endocrine problem for those who are like, what is endocrine? A hormonal problem that has a multi-system effect. And I think what's really hurtful is, one, that people don't realize how frustrated it is for people who do have PCOS and conditions like PCOS, and how difficult it is to deal with these conditions, than to have someone then throw salt on your wound, on your
Right.
emotional wound, your physical wound, is so painful. People who have PCOS are higher rate of having hypertension, higher rate of having diabetes, can actually have uterine cancer for their lack of regular menstrual cycles, and have a higher rate of having infertility. So kudos to this celebrity for getting pregnant. We're not going to ask her business, but kudos that she was able to get pregnant. A lot of PCOS patients can't get pregnant naturally and have difficulty with it. So you have women who are dealing with a multitude of issues. Fertility itself is a traumatic issue for a lot of women, and then you add to that people who are, it's more prevalent in certain ethnic groups and races that are already, burdened with diabetes and hypertension to begin with. So if you're trying to dodge that genetic bullet in your family, and then here comes this syndrome that's like, hey, I'm going to make things even more difficult for you, right? It's a lot to deal with. And I think just, we need to do a better job, I think, as a medical community, with educating people of the manifestations of a variety of diseases. There's this baby on social media that has congenital nevi, that has a multitude of nevi. I think she's the most adorable baby. But people, can sometimes say hurtful and painful things just out of ignorance. And I think we have enough access to education, to information. I mean, we're on, okay, granted, social media may not necessarily be a great source for good, solid, valid information, reliable source of information, but you can look things up with so many search engines, right? So I can't no longer excuse the ignorance at all.
And I don't think, let's be honest, hurt people, right? And so you are having a bunch of people who are being keyboard bullies. Like, they're not coming to her face and say this, right? They can sit behind the anonymity of a screen and write this.
True.
Would you come to her face and be like, you ugly? Why?
She would
You
wrap them up
probably
and throw them out
wouldn't.
with a blanket. Mm-hmm.
She probably would. Or she
She
would
would.
probably do what I do and laugh and be like, and keep them moving.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of that. It's not even its intention is to hurt. The intention is to hurt. The intention is to draw blood, so to speak. It's like whatever they're going through, whatever issue they're having, they have found a way to just spew it out to the rest of the world. And it's like, well, the rest of the world, y'all gonna take it. And so they now go and they hurt this person. And then I feel like you get the mob mentality even on social media, where you're going to have now everybody jumping on that bandwagon. Oh yeah, and unfortunately, some of us of a certain ethnicity like to make a lot of jokes and a lot of fun about a lot of dumb things. Sometimes we
Mm-hmm.
can take it from A and take it all the way to Z, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we need to cut it a little.
Not
Some
going too
things are
far.
Right. But then they
Mm-hmm.
just start going in and going on, and hurt people, and folk need to get off the socials and get a life.
Yeah, and I think sometimes what people don't realize is that, first of all, she has a large following of young adults for sure,
Mm-hmm.
right? And a large following of teenagers because she's been typed in those particular types of shows and movies and programming.
Mm-hmm.
So that being said, she probably has a lot of young followers that have the same condition because it's so prevalent in the women of color community. So in likelihood, she has some other individual who may not be as well put together. And so what happens to that person that's still fragile, who's reading this comments, who have the same condition, who is saying, oh my gosh, I do think, who may think that they're ugly. What do you say to that person?
I mean, kind of going back to what Trissa was saying about how it's so much easier for these people just to comment because they think, oh, no one's ever going to read this in the hundreds of other comments in this thread. Like they think, oh, I'm just going to do this for fun and poke fun and do it. And no one's going to see it. And there's going to be no consequence to it. And they find that easier to do than just go on the internet to research and look up and see and do more of their due diligence to see what's going on about that person's condition and like have a heart. But they just find it easier just to say that mean thing and then move on with their day and act as if they did nothing wrong.
Right. Right.
Or for the for that young adult, for that young person, we we can't we can't tell them how to feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can't tell them how to feel. They're going to have to kind of go through that processing for themselves. It may cause this person to go and hide a bit more, wear more makeup, and do some of those things for a while. But I feel like, the more that she gets the encouragement from the same community, I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it, and the support, I feel like that has a potential for not transposing, but like almost covering over a bit of the haters and the hater rhetoric, right? And so hopefully they would be looking at that as well, not just the down the rabbit hole, but the ones that are more uplifting, and realize that they are not all physical. It's not all about what you see. There's much more to you than that. It's not, you are not made up of just what you physically look like on the outside. And so we have to make sure that, yes, we're keeping our physical healthy. We're doing the best we can to take care of our physical, but also taking care of our mental, our emotional, our spiritual, and taking care of those portions, and making sure that we're not being ugly the same way, that we're not treating people in a way that would make our interactions ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be hard because, when you get the teenagers and the young adults, it really is all about what they look like. They're very heavily based on what they look like, and it's all, whether this person likes me, whether this person thinks I'm cute, or whether they don't think I'm cute, or whatever. So it gets really hard. And I remember, as a young girl, yes, you just really wanted this boy to like you, and you would try to do whatever you felt like to be attractive to him or whatever. And it's a stage, and I think parents need to be able to be a bit more involved, like I was saying earlier, to almost be like a bit of a safeguard, because yes, the mental health is fragile. Yes, they can take on a lot of what they see, but to be there to reinforce to them that this is not all of who you are. Like, just your outward appearance is not all of who you are.
I think one of the things is really finding beauty in yourself. It's about looking in the mirror and saying, child, I may have that acne, but I am popping. Even with some acne, I could still bring it. Okay. It's about having that confidence, and to have that confidence, you really have to see that beauty in yourself. If you don't truly see it, no, you're not even going to convince yourself that you truly feel that way. And I'll tell you guys a personal story about that. So, hey, you guys, thank you for joining us today. This conversation took an interesting turn. So make sure you join us on the next episode to find out what happened. So if they wanted to find out more about what you think about beauty, Dr. Trissa, where can they find you?
Trissa Job at DPT, TrissaJob.dpt. Lord have his mercy on Instagram. Yeah.
He said, Lord have his mercy. And Amanda, if they wanted to find out more about beauty in the Asian community and other things, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram. It's at Amanda, AAYUMN.
All right. See, Trissa, she remember her handle. And I am the other Dr. C on the couch. I am the hand behind the handle of healthybump.club. And we appreciate you for hanging out with us here on YouTube, where we are known simply as Healthy Bump Club. If you like this particular talk and you have some comments, let us know, what is your standard of beauty? What have you been taught? What have you grown up with? We want to know. Comment, like, share. That is your hint. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for supporting us through our Apple link, because I'm just assuming y'all gonna buy some music, as we are partners with Apple Music, and also for supporting us with our gear. Making sure you get a hat, a tote, a sweater. Come on, show some shoulders. Get your bucket hat on. All right. Spring is coming. We believe it's coming. I feel it in the air because my sinuses tell me so. Okay. And we thank y'all for watching us once again. And we will see y'all when next episode.